Law number 11, the law of localization. A brand must be converted from an abstract idea to something a target audience will recognize and resonate with. Let's all wave our magic wands. Oh, wait, you don't have one? Ugh, that's unfortunate. And poof, we have an employer brand. Whether it's an EVP, a brand promise, a brand direction, or just some variant or shape of a brand, it now exists. Check your deck. Hey, there it is. Yay! So is everything better? Are your recruiters attracting more of the people they want? Is your career site supporting more of the compelling job postings? Do people in every appropriate field now think of you as an interesting employer? Probably not. I mean, it's still just a slide on a deck. Maybe 20, 30 words. It isn't a spell, it isn't magic, and I'll take that magic wand back now, thank you. Remember what a brand is trying to do. Connect people to companies and roles that will serve them. And all too often, we think of a brand as a company-sized thing. And while it does start that way, being company-sized only solves part of the problem. It might attract people to the company, but ignores the more local issues of how it helps set expectations about what the role has to offer. As a concept, a brand is too broad to be actually useful. In order to extract its value, we've got to put it through the process of localizing it to various audiences. Now, there's a pro and con to this level of abstraction. The nice thing is that as an abstract concept, anybody can look at it and see what they want to see in it. It's like a Rorschach test. But the bad thing is that when everyone sees whatever they want to see in it, it eliminates any value of alignment. Until they've been told what the elephant looks like, the blind men are free to think of the elephant as whatever it is they're touching. Once they're told, they can't have that free thought. Localizing takes the various ideas within a brand and decides which make the most sense for that audience, translating those ideas into their language while preserving some sense of the central idea. So if you have an EVP with 4 pillars, which is a relatively common situation, the brand and pillar number 1 might best apply to nurses, and the brand plus pillar number 2 would attract more of the doctors. Here, the overall brand serves as a kind of anchor to all candidates, allowing each of the pillars to connect that anchor to the person. This is being specific to your audience's motivation while still creating alignment with the larger brand idea. But the last step is to wrap those ideas in language. Once we know which part of the brands we want to communicate, we translate those ideas into the local language. Let's say you have an innovation message to share, and to developers, you might talk about the amazing tools and tech that they will have access to and the expectation that they will be expected to push themselves and create something new. To the salesperson, that message might be how you have an innovative product to sell or you're comfortable with innovative approaches to generating leads. To the QA team, that message might be that the QA team is completely integrated into the development process and doesn't exist solely as the last step in delivery. To a recruiter, that message might be that the company has invested in employer branding and the training to make that brand useful. Same idea expressed many different ways to different audiences. Every company needs to localize its brand differently. At a massive multinational company, the idea of localization will often involve culture and language. How you express innovation to the team in Chicago will be very different than how you express it to the team in Copenhagen or Chennai. But this is where the brand's abstract nature becomes a positive, because I am translating innovation, the idea, rather than innovation, the word. I am now allowing local teams to consider that idea and interpret it to express it to their own audiences. Why this works? Brands are conceptual. They exist as perception in other people's heads. See, the law of perception. As things that exist exclusively in people's heads, they are exceedingly hard to convey accurately. Not to turn this into a semiotics lesson, but how do you know that the color I see as blue is the same color or shade that you see as blue? Even if I were to say it's a soft blue that leans more towards gray, we're almost certainly not thinking of the exact same color. The way you break out of that trap is to reference local knowns. So instead of saying blue, or a light blue with some gray, you say the color of our scrubs, the color of the GE logo, or hex code #3B73B9. You describe an abstract concept in terms that the listener will understand. The same is true for your employer brand. When you say, we're supportive, that means nothing. Support is a deeply abstract concept that everyone will consider and expect in wildly different terms. Does "we're supportive" mean 4-day work week? Or "we'll pay your pet insurance"? Or "once a month we'll say thank you by buying the team some pizza"? All those ideas can accurately describe the idea of being supportive, but I bet your company leans close to one version of the truth or another. Localization is the act of taking that concept and making it more real, of describing the shape and attitude of that brand, making it less abstract and more concrete, so that everyone has a shared understanding of what you're both talking about. Where this falls apart. When companies buy rather than build an employer brand, whether it's through an agency or doing research or a consultant or whatever, the cost of developing the brand tends to lead to an underspend on the localization. The cost of developing it tends to be high, and so there's not a lot left over for getting the word out on a local level. But localization is the middle layer that connects the abstract to the meaningful. It takes a broad term like "we're changing the world" and describes it to specific audiences in a specific way that they can understand and absorb. Many companies want to jump to that activation process because it's cool or fun or what the kids are doing. And no one's ever said that last one. But when they skip this localization middle step, they end up with pretty, flowery, and aspirational claims that are flimsy at best and feel like bullshit at worst. But localization is the process of translating the broad brand ideas into other cultures and languages. And here, there is an opportunity for failure. If you need to translate the brand idea of innovation into Tamil for the Chennai team, keeping an eye out to express innovation as someone in that region of India might appreciate it, how do you know when you haven't deviated too far from the core idea? You'll need to actually retranslate it back into your language and try and test those ideas. Assuming a simple translation, or worse, running it through Google Translate, is begging for misunderstanding in an area that is both public and painful. Examples. When you look at customer descriptions of localization strategies, what you'll find is all about the culture and language localization. But for employer brands, it's more common to think of localization in terms of functional areas. Let's assume the brand is "Bright Future Made by You." This isn't public information, so while this is an actual employer brand, I'm not actually going to tell you who it is, but it doesn't matter. If you tell a marketer, "Join us because the company is building a bright future made for you," what do you think they'll think? Probably that you're full of crap. But if you run that idea and the brand through a localization process, you might consider that a marketer might be interested to see that their work is driving and growing the company. This might suggest a company that is willing to listen to ideas from lots of different places under the guise that the best idea wins. Suddenly, a broad term like "bright future made by you" turns into something far more meaningful like, "Hey, look, as a marketer, I bet you have loads of great ideas that aren't even being considered because you're not the boss." Is that fair? Yeah, I thought so. So I bet you'd be interested in working in a place that was marketing driven, not via hierarchy, but via merit, a place where the best idea was probably going to win. Does that sound interesting? It's the same concept you're describing, but now it's connected to what a marketer cares about and might be actively looking for.